It's hard to believe that 180 days ago, this aquarium was just an empty glass box. Today, it's a living, breathing ecosystem. Hello guys, and welcome back to the 6-month update of the Sunken Forest. Back in September of 2025, I slowly started to prepare to create this aquascape. I bought myself a 23-gallon tank, which is 90 litres, and then I created a custom stand for the tank, using furniture from IKEA that I reinforced with some pieces of timber, just to be on the safe side. Once the tank was in place, it was finally time to plan and source for Hardscape. Finding the exact wood I was looking for to mimic the tree-like structures for the scape turned out a lot easier than I imagined, as I happened to stumble upon a few good pieces at a local shop. I poured in some nutrient-rich aqua soil, and this is where the fun started, or so I thought. It was quite a challenging layout, not only in its complexity but also in its size. As I was used to scaping significantly smaller tanks, this was my first attempt at something bigger. Nothing like staring at a piece of wood for hours only for it to look wrong in about 46 different ways. But if you know, you know. After a few hours of moving the wood around, I was finally happy with the placement. The next day, I glued everything securely into place, including my fingers, and then added some finishing touches with the sand path. I planted the tank with a few different types of mosses, so weeping moss to give that mature forest vibe when it grew in, and I also used some riccardia moss on some of the lower sections of the tank. This is something I would later regret, but more on that a little bit later. I then moved on to the carpeting plants, so I broke them up in very small portions so then it was just a lot easier to plant. Just as I did the moss, I used several types of carpeting plants to give a more blended and natural look to the scape as it grew in. I also wanted to create a point of interest with a pop of colour, so I chose these crypts. These normally are not to be placed at the front of your tank because they do get quite large, but with some regular pruning, the leaves do stay quite small and compact. Then I added some of my personal favourites, a few different type of booses, a few ferns just to fill out this back section of the tank, and finally, to complete the sand pathway and add just a little bit of detail in there, some cryptocorin parva. After 3 hours of planting the tank, it was finally complete and I was very satisfied with how it was looking. After shifting the tank into my corridor, I filled it up, and this is what it looked like straight after the tank was filled and the filter was fitted. The filter I added onto the tank was the one that came in the kit of this tank, and I wasn't really happy with it, so I would later update this one. The following days I ended up installing a bio-CO2 system on the tank, so this is not as performant as a pressurized high-tech system. It did work quite well, but then again it wasn't very convenient as I did have to fill it up every few weeks. A few days after installing the CO2 system, some strange things started happening, and I started to see these small worms. Although these small worms looked very familiar, I wasn't sure of what they were exactly, so after catching a few of them and taking a closer look at them, I actually realised they were bloodworms. And I wasn't one to say no to free food for the future fish, so I just left them be in the tank. The following week, the tank was just cruising along, going through its natural cycling process, and with that came some diatoms, so it was finally time to break out the ultimate cleanup crew. Bladder snails, so love them or hate them. I really appreciate them because they work really fast and they do a great job at cleaning up. So much so that in the following days, the diatoms were just history at this point, and they had completely decimated everything. Never underestimate a bunch of hungry snails. All that was left to do was just to do a very small cleanup and just let the tank sit and cycle for the next month. Until one afternoon I walked past my tank and saw this. At first I was really wondering what it was. What was this happening again in my tank? until I realized, oh, it was the bloodworms that had hatched. And as much as free food for the fish was acceptable, these small flies in my house was absolutely not. So I started a personal vendetta. A month later, I had successfully won my military campaign against the flies, and it was finally time to go and get some fish for the aquarium. I got some phantom tetras. I had been wanting to keep them for a while now, so I was really looking forward to putting these into the Hardscape because I thought that it would complement it quite well. Second fish, more of a classic, but how can anybody resist a classic, especially with those type of colours? After the fish were netted and bagged up, it was time to go home and put the fish into the tank. And this is where I learned that I would never have a vlogging channel because I'm nowhere good at it at all. When I got home, it was time to acclimate the fish, so I did this very, very slowly because it was snowing outside at this point. So I really had to get the fish back up to temperature. The water parameters as well from the store were very different from my parameters that were lower because of the CO2 level, so I did trip acclimate them. Once all that was done, it was finally time to add the fish to the tank. And this is what the tank looked like with the fish straight after adding them. I have to say as well, for only 1 month of growth, the tank was also looking really, really good. Two months later, the tank was now 3 months old. I ended up moving it into my kitchen space so I could enjoy it a little bit more on a daily basis because it was placed in my corridor and it wasn't the best place to really view the tank. Not much happened during those 2 months. I would just do my regular maintenance, which would be a 40 to 50% water change every week. I'd also do a little bit of pruning, especially with the crypts in front, just to keep them nice, small and compact. I also kept on top of refilling my bio CO2 system just for it to keep at optimal levels of CO2 in the tank. So I was doing this about every 2 to 3 weeks. So that's what I found inconvenient for me, was just having to keep checking if I had to fill it up. At the 5-month mark, I finally decided to update the filter. So I found one of my old canister filters that was in my storage unit, and I just bought some stainless steel lily pipes and some new tubing and fitted it onto the tank. Having a bigger and more performant filtration system does make a huge difference when you're keeping a tank long term. It keeps it stable, it keeps it clean, and a canister filter is just less maintenance overall compared to this very small hang on the back filter I had. Aesthetically, it also looks a lot better than that square that was sitting at the back of the tank. This looks a lot more modern. It also has a very clean look to it. A few weeks later, it was time to finally do the last upgrade to the tank, which would be the lighting system. This was a standard light that came with the tank, and there was nothing wrong with the light itself, although these plastic clips, they just weren't practical. Every time leaves would just get under it, it would be a mess, and I did find that it just made the whole setup look very low, look very boxy, and it just wasn't the aesthetic I wanted to go for with this Hardscape. I ordered myself a universal suspension kit for aquarium lights, but first I did have to take the clips off the original light I had. I mounted it up and then I placed it onto the tank. A big plus to this update compared to what I used to have is I could actually now adjust the height of the light to be able to bring it up a little bit. I was really happy with how it turned out. It just looked so much better. It really did give more of a high-tech feel to the actual setup. And all this brings us now up to 180 days. 6 months later, this is what the tank looks like. I asked you guys on the community tab if there's anything you wanted to know about this tank, and you guys didn't hold back. Okay, so first question, this one is a good one. Have you ever considered getting a citric acid and baking soda CO2 system? So when I saw this question, it made me laugh because I am currently looking into getting one. I still have a bunch of research to do on it, but I do think it's just going to be a lot better in the long run for the tank to be running on the citric acid system. It's also, I do think, more cost convenient. Just a quick how-to on managing those tree tops. Well, I can't say I actually do much. I just trim them when I find that it gets a little bit too long. Otherwise, I really don't do anything. So yeah, that's about it. I have the same tank and I was thinking about buying the light bracket. Are you happy you changed it? Yes, like 100%. For me, it's literally, after the filter of course, but like the best upgrade I've done. I actually like it so much I actually bought a second one for my shallow tank. I think it just, for the price, I paid this, I think 30 euros. It's well worth it for me. Knowing that some light stands are double or triple the cost, and this one fits all lights, and when it's done with this setup I can just use it on another light. So yeah, I'm really happy with it, and I just love the way it looks. It looks really modern. I absolutely love this tank. Do you know how much it cost altogether to create? Did you design it all yourself, or did you take inspiration from anywhere? Is there anything you wish you had done, not done inside? Firstly, thank you. That's very kind of you. Altogether, well, I don't know. Again, I've done some upgrades on it. My guess would be, if you wanted to recreate the same thing with the same amount of plants, with as much aqua soil, the wood, all this stuff, right? It would probably be anywhere between 800 to 1,000 euros. I used a lot of plants. That doesn't mean if somebody wants to recreate something like this, you could probably cut it in half, like the whole budget, by using less plants and maybe not using as much aqua soil as I did, maybe using some mesh bags with lava rock. All that can cut cost, and obviously you don't have to do all the updates I did, but yeah, this is probably right now the most expensive tank I own. So yeah, it's not a cheap one for sure. Did you design it all yourself, or did you take inspiration from anywhere? Yeah, I go, like a lot of us, on a lot of walks, and there are a few forest areas. So yeah, I think that's really what inspired this build. Is there anything you wish you had done, not done in hindsight? So yeah, the moss. Like, I think it's just, as much as I love it, like I think it looks amazing, I probably would have replaced this weeping moss with Riccardia moss. So just, it grows. This one, it grows too fast for me. I have a lot of issues keeping on top of it. I would really have to trim it once a week to keep on top of it, and then it just goes everywhere. It goes everywhere in the carpeting plants, and yeah, I just have to pick that out every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm on a moss hunt. So yeah, that's what I would do differently. Put a moss that is less messy and grows a little less fast. Thought process behind stocking, choice, and amounts. So for the Phantom Tetras, I think I have 10 of them, and it's just been a favorite that I've been wanting to keep for such a long time. And I also thought that it would complement the scape quite a bit, which I do think it does. So that's for the Phantom Tetras. And the neons, they're just a personal favorite. Like, they're a classic. They also add a pop of color. And I've also added a colony of cherry shrimp. So again, color, and who doesn't like shrimp? Imagine having the best aquariums and don't have a sponsor. That's fine. That's fine. I'm yet to find a company who is serious and considers my work. So yeah, I'm fine on my own here for now. So if there's a good company out there that value the work of creators, well, they know where to find me. Amazing tank. My questions: how much time does it take to maintain each week? Each week, how much time do I spend on this? Well, I water change every single week. So right now I'm doing 30% water change. That probably takes me, like, if I'm really taking my time, like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then I'm probably trimming it every 2 weeks. And trimming can take like a while because of all the moss, like siphoning the moss. So probably an hour to an hour and a half of trimming, if I'm completely honest. Sometimes it does take longer, so. How do you feed your fish? What food and how often? So I feed my fish a very small quantity of food every single day. Some people feed every other day. I feed every day. I just find that works for me, right? And then I just feed them so many different types of food, so many different types of pellets. It's important to mix stuff up, at least that's my opinion. And sometimes I do feed them some live foods. Are there any stocking regrets, animals, plants, hardscape you would not use again? Love your content. Greetings from Germany, Edgar. So, any stocking regrets? No, I'm really happy with this whole build, again, for moss. That's the only thing I would do differently. Otherwise, thank you very much, Edgar, for sending in your questions. I know you've been following me since the first video I put out there, so I really do appreciate your support. So this question is a good one as well. How do you manage direct sunlight with the tank being very close to the window? So, as of now, I've had absolutely no problem with the sunlight. It is at an angle, so it's not like full on the tank. I think the way I'm going to be managing it, like in the midst of summer, is I'm probably going to be adding some kind of black background to this side of the tank, so then there's absolutely no light coming through that side. So then I just don't have to keep the shutters closed a good part of the day. So I think that's how I'm going to deal with sunlight if there is that issue this summer. How many times do you water change this tank? So again, like I said, I do about 30% now, 30 to 40% every single week, just for good measure. I'm also pumping in quite a lot of fertilizers. So for me, it's just good measure to bring those nutrient levels down at the end of the week. So yeah, that's about it. Great idea to involve your community like this. Beautiful tank, no questions so far. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. So guys, that's the end of this week's video. Thank you so much to those of you who have sent in your questions, and I will see you next week for a new video.